The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for April 30th, 2026. This is season 15, episode number 69, and episode number 583 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And Taylor, you saw something today that you think that the Binghamton Black Bears players and coaching staff and everybody who loves the Binghamton Black Bears should kind of know about. Talk a little bit about what you saw today.
Yeah, so I saw a quote earlier today at one of my stops, and it really resonated with me. And then the more that I thought about it, I thought it could resonate with a lot of other people as well. And I kind of wanted to talk about it because I think it's important. I really do.
All right, please give us the quote.
The quote is, "Pressure is a privilege. It means things are expected of you because people believe in you." And it felt super important to me because I know oftentimes pressure can kind of be like a weight, and it feels heavy. And this kind of changed my perspective on the word pressure and like the whole thing behind it. And that I'm sure kind of coming into the series and coming into the finals for the third straight year and having a chance at another cup for the Black Bears, I'm sure everybody, the fans, the coaching staff, the players, all feel this pressure. But if you look at it from that angle, you have this pressure because of all the people that believe in you. The team that believes in Brant Sherwood that believes in the team, your teammates believing in each other, the fans that believe in you. You have all of this belief that's surrounded by you, and that's where the pressure is coming from. And I thought it's something that really struck me, and I'm kind of hoping that it does the same for some other people who maybe feel that pressure sometimes, or kind of feel like there's the weight that kind of comes with it, and that they look at it and, sort of see it in a new light, now that I've kind of shed some on it. It hit me. I told you, it hit me like a train, to kind of read that in the middle of my day. Everything's perfectly fine. And I was just like, I was hit with this thought, and it just kind of like, it took literally like a weight off my shoulder to kind of think about it that way. And it was kind of funny. So I definitely thought it was worth sharing, and I'm sure others could kind of hear that. So.
Wow. I have to say it is something that I think that the Black Bears organization addressed in the beginning of the season when they started the video of Heavy is the Crown. Heavy wears the crown music video that we obviously debated and talked about. But if you think about it, that pressure, which is a privilege, is a very it's very poignant, right? Because we are lucky as Binghamton hockey fans, as our Binghamton hockey community is very lucky to have had hockey for so long, first of all, for 54 years, but also for the last 3 years and the last 5 years, realistically, of what the Black Bears have built and what they've done here. Everybody from Andreas down to one guy who maybe have played one game here, what they built here, including what Brant Sherwood has done, what Connor McAnanama still means to every single person, even though he's not going to play in this series unless something happens, means so much. And because we do have a lot of pressure going into this series, and even if they don't win, this has probably been one of the best runs of hockey that I've ever been so close to see. The pressure really is a privilege. It's a beautiful quote, and I'm really glad that you brought this.
Yeah, just the more that I thought about it, the more it goes so well with like how this season has gone and just the way that things have happened this year, because we always talk about like, the team being better and, could they be better than this? And, statistically they kind of matched, some of the numbers from last year, but they're still doing better in other aspects. And it's been this huge thing. But yet something that Kyle Steffen had said last year about the belief in this room is unmatched. And yet here we are talking about, people believing in you. And that's why you have this pressure. And that's, it's all so fitting. And it seriously does feel like a giant circle, talk about heavy as the crown from the beginning of the season when we talked about the opening video and everyone was so upset about that. But the song was so fitting. And it truly is even to this point. And now it just feels like we've had this giant circle moment and, everything kind of leads to, this upcoming, next 2 weekends. So I saw that today and it really hit me. And so I thought it was absolutely perfect to kind of bring up and talk about first thing on the show.
Absolutely. Give us the full quote one more time, please.
Pressure is a privilege. It means things are expected of you because people believe in you.
It's just, that's amazing. I think we can end the show now. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. There will be some games
the shortest show we've ever done.
Well, I think you really started off really with a bang there, because I wanted to talk about what it meant to go into this weekend. And realistically, you started that off really perfectly there. And you gave me like 20 seconds notice that we were going to talk about something that you saw earlier today. I knew nothing about that. But
I debated all day telling you, and then I was like, no, I was either going to surprise you on the show with it, and then as soon as we started talking, I was like, so this was what I couldn't keep it in anymore.
Taylor, it's amazing too, because the Black Bears have just made me feel so fortunate this week going into this weekend. The fact that they're going to be playing for their third straight championship, and in 48 years of hockey in Binghamton, we'd only had one championship beforehand, and it took 38 years to get to there. And then within 5 years of the Black Bears being here, we're on the verge of possibly a third championship. And I think anybody who's had any particular personal relationship with any one of the Binghamton Black Bears players or coaches or staff members, you have to feel really fortunate that you've had those, because the beauty of hockey is that at some point the hockey gods are going to take this all away from us, and we're going to have a couple lean years, and that's just normal. Everybody knows that. It's very rare to be able to enjoy 3 years of this heavy excess or success and just be able to. So we really need to go into this and really just savor the moment and maybe smell the roses a little bit over these next 2 weekends, because we don't know when this is going to happen again. I know I could have said that after the first championship. I could have said that after the second championship. But I think it's really true going into the third finals in a row that we should really stop, take a look, smell the roses, enjoy this while it's here, because it could be gone very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, who knows what's going to happen next year? Everything could be exactly the same, or it can be, the complete opposite, and everything's going to be different. You never know what's going to happen. Some of these players could move on and go play somewhere else. Some might stay here. Brant could move on. You never know what's going to happen at the end of the series. And it's one of those things where, like, if you look back and you kind of think about, when you win that first cup, it's, all the emotion in the room for winning it the first time and how everybody felt, and, the fans, the players, just that moment all over again was just so awesome to be able to witness. And then the second year being, the only team to do it back to back, it was, just another special, great moment. And then this year, it's like one of those things where it's almost like bittersweet, because, like, the more you think about it, the more you're like, it would be so difficult to do it again a fourth year in a row. Like, it was already hard doing it twice, and then they're having a great run trying to do it a third time. So if they could do it a third time, doing it a fourth time would just seem near impossible. And we probably thought that, the second year kind of coming into it. So this one definitely feels more bittersweet. And part of that just could be my own personal opinion, because I've gotten so much closer to this than I ever would have imagined I'd ever be. I was just a fan showing up to the games and leaving once that buzzer sounded. And now I'm so much more involved, and there's so much more going on that it truly does feel feel like this bittersweet kind of thing that, they have a great chance at getting a third run. And, but at the end of it, in 2 weeks, it's over. It doesn't matter who wins at that point. Hockey's going to be over. Sure, if we win, there's the celebration after. But even then, like, the hockey aspect of it is over. And the celebration is so fun and it's so exciting. And just, it almost feels like a closing chapter. And you get to like look back on all the things that you've done this year and, like all the connections that you have made throughout the year. So it definitely, this one feels way more bittersweet than the last two have. And I would be extremely shocked to say that it would all happen again next season. But, anything could happen. And that's just, again, the way that I have to look at things is anything can happen.
Well, I want to talk about your journey for a little bit. So near the end of the regular season last year, I asked you to write the Impact Players Report. You had been suggested by somebody who I consider a very close friend now, and I know you do as well. And you started writing, and then they win the championship. And the week after they win the championship, you actually debuted here on the Power Play Post Show, actually on the podcast. And even just about 4 days before that, you were at the celebration after they won the second championship, and people were coming up to you asking for an autograph, picture, things of that nature, which was pretty cool. I believe it was Jen who asked you for your first autograph. You did it in the little yearbook that Ashley Ferris created for people. And that was pretty awesome. I remember taking the picture and I'm thinking, wow, this is a cool moment here. And now we go a full season later. We're getting close to the championship. And I go and I sit down to do an interview with Jacob Shankar up in the press box yesterday. And literally the first thing he says to me is, "Where's Taylor?" And that it just says a lot about the acceptance of the Binghamton Black Bears, not only to just accept me into the fold, into the family, but there are people that also are like, hey, she's a part of us now, a part of the family, because she's helped tell our story this past, 360 some days. It'll be 365 days in about 2 weeks. That must mean a lot to you to hear that, we go to sit down and he's like, "Where's Taylor? No Taylor?"
Yeah, it definitely does. I remember the second you sent me that message, I was just like, oh, because I was like, I felt bad that I wasn't there. And I really wish that I could have made that work and swung it, just because it would have been so much fun. I definitely love, being able to talk to those guys. And, I've only done the 2 interviews so far, but it's been an absolute blast to kind of do that whole, back and forth and everything. It's something that I never in a million years could picture myself doing. I never thought that I would be on a podcast. I never thought that people would know me by name. I'm still kind of like, it baffles me and blows my mind when I walk into that arena and so many people know me, and they come up to me and tell me, how much they enjoy the show and how much they love listening, or they'll take something that we talked about, that week during the podcast, and they'll bring it up and we'll have a conversation about it. Or, they'll make comments about, oh, they were really wishing they could have won the poster, stuff like that. And it's still absolutely blows my mind. And the fact that, to you and some other people, I'm like, you keep labeling me as like a celebrity around the arena. Yes. And I don't feel that way. But the amount of connections that I've made this year and the amount of families that, now come up to me and speak to me like they've known me for years, it's something that it feels so special.
Yeah.
And it truly, like, I never would have thought that I would be this close or this involved in hockey to this aspect in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's a great thing. And I know there's a lot of families that listen to this show where their sons play, or families here in the Binghamton area who listen and their kids play hockey. And I think this has become something very special to them listening to this show. I've gotten pictures from some families, and they're on vacation, and they're listening and watching to the Power Play Post Show, which is really strange to me. Social media has definitely changed that since when I first started the show 21 years ago. 22 years ago, there was no real social media in that sense. It slowly kind of built up. And to have people just so easily be able to engage with us is very cool. I want to change the subject just a little bit. Going into last weekend's series against the Port Huron Prowlers, I had a lot of angst. I had a lot of worry. There was a part of me that was just very concerned about how the series was going to go. Not necessarily that I thought the Black Bears were going to lose, but maybe the way the games would be played. And it is Wednesday as you and I are recording this. And I know some of the fans will listen maybe overnight, because if I put this up tonight, people will be immediately starting to listen to it, which still blows my mind. Thank you very much, everybody who listens to the show. We truly do appreciate it. I know a lot of people will listen to this Thursday, and maybe my anxiety will kind of kick up a little bit on Thursday. Probably Friday, I'll have a horrible day at work. Hopefully they don't send me too many projects to work on, because I'll probably struggle with that. I don't feel the anxiety today like I did maybe when we recorded last Tuesday before the Port Huron series. Are you feeling the same way? Like there's not as much anxiety going. I mean, this is do or die. We win 3 games, we win the championship. There should be some sort of anxiety in me, but I feel so very calm going into this week.
Yeah, I feel that same exact way. And I don't think it's any kind of issue. I had said to you last week, and I'm pretty sure this was off air, that I felt like Port Huron, they gave us a great series. They truly did. They played great hockey. Definitely not Prowler hockey, but they played hockey. And that was something that I think shocked a lot of people who weren't Prowlers fans. And it was a great series to watch and be a part of. And, we really did feel on edge. And even though, like, throughout the regular season, we had, the advantage over Port Huron, they only won 1 game against us. Going into that series, I think everybody felt it. And I think everybody knew that it was going to be a tough battle no matter what. Where coming into this finals, and I don't know if it's because we've only faced Pee Dee 2 games and it was a split between, the 2 games. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's necessarily that. I don't know if it's just, they're a new team and they've got to battle through a lot more than, the Black Bears would have, for the regular season. They've had more struggles, or they've had more roster changes, more roster moves, especially going later into the season. They made quite a few changes. We faced them in January, and they've made quite a bit of changes to their roster since we've seen them. So sometimes you don't expect a team to perform their best if it's late roster changes, especially a bunch of them. And on top of that, something that we'll get into is, the goalie numbers. And that is where my concern really isn't. If, and Watertown didn't do the best at protecting their goalies and kind of stopping that. So if Pee Dee can do anything to help their goalie out, maybe it'll be a better standing for Colgan. But Colgan doesn't worry me. And Cooper is by far a better goaltender than Colgan. And I will stand by that all day. You could put match to match. Cooper is a hard goalie to beat. He truly is. And, Port Huron, he was keeping Port Huron in those games for sure. And I don't think Colgan's going to give us as much of a fight as Cooper did.
Yeah, one of the numbers that I kind of looked at, and I know I have it slated for us to talk about in just a few minutes, is how the 2 teams kind of finished out the regular season, right? The stats, the numbers, the standings and that type of thing. When we first met the Pee Dee IceCats back on January 25th of 2025, they came into the first game against us 11-16-3. Okay. After we beat them 6-3, they were then 11-17-3, which means that after they beat us the next night 4-0, because that's what we did, we split the series with them. They were 12-17-3 And that's 31 games. And so they did win after that. I'd say another 12 games in the season. We won like 25 games after that. And my point is I'm not saying that they're not a good team and they're not a Cinderella story and they don't belong here. I just don't know if when they go and they face Binghamton 5 times in a row, if that's what it takes, or 4 times or 3 times, that they're going to be able to have what it takes to beat this team. And I know I'm kind of giving away who I think is going to win. And of course I'm going to pick Binghamton, but I just don't know if this team has had enough success this year to then come in and beat a team like Binghamton, who in their last 10 games was 9-1. Well, PD was 5-4-1. Okay. So they were basically a 500 club. We won 90% of our last 10 games. We had a winning streak of 4 wins before going into the playoffs. Now we both have won 4 games and lost 1 game in the playoffs. And they only won 1 game before going into the playoffs. My point is, though, I think as interesting as it was for them to beat Athens 15-4 in scoring, and then have 2 game-winning goals in overtime against Columbus, I still don't know if they have enough to beat Binghamton.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. And again, it's nothing against PD as a team or any of the players. I do think there is a ton of skill on that team. I truly do believe that. I think they have a lot of skilled players. And, quite a few of the guys went up to the SP and, did some stuff up there before coming back down here for the playoffs. But it's one of those things where Binghamton is so well established.
Yeah.
And, these guys talk about knowing their specific role on a team where you might not be in the first line. So you have to know your role if you're in the second line or the third line, or if you're dressed as a 10th forward. Each spot has a specific role that you kind of have to take over when you're doing that. And I don't know if PD has the same kind of setup that Binghamton does in that aspect. And, if they're out of sync at all, Binghamton's just going to roll right in.
Yeah.
And I know that PD was pretty good about keeping the pace and, staying with the guys and stuff. But if they're out of sync, kind of how we looked on Saturday against Port Huron, if there's no, you're out of sync, you can't make passes, you're not going to be able to stop Binghamton. And that's where, I truly feel that I just don't see it in the cards for PD. And their series with Columbus went exactly how I thought it would, aside from I did think Columbus was going to win, but I did see them being very evenly matched. And, 2 of their games went into overtime. And, we've been fortunate enough that our games haven't. Thank God.
Yep.
But I'm going to say that I'm shocked that, they beat out PD. For some reason, I'm not shocked that they beat out Athens, but I am shocked that they beat out Columbus. It's a weird thing, but for some reason, and maybe it's just because it was my own personal thing that I wanted Athens out in the first round just because they're not going to be here next year. That was maybe my own personal thing where I'm like, they're not going to make it past the first round, and they didn't. So it worked for me.
Your own personal vendetta against the Athens Rock Lobsters. I love it. It's great.
And it worked. I was right, and I was right about the Columbus series, except the Columbus didn't win it in the end, but it could have, definitely gone either way. They went into overtime 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
And, Columbus was winning and PD had to do what they needed to do to win. And if it comes down to that for Binghamton, like if it's a close game and Binghamton's winning and PD needs 2 goals to come back to tie it or a goal to come back and tie it, Binghamton is so good at shutting it down in those last couple minutes and making it very hard to get a couple shots on Dom that I don't see it happening for PD. I really don't. I mean, we took a penalty in the last 58 seconds of the game and everybody was on edge.
6 on 4. It was 6 on 4. They
still managed to shut them down. So
100%.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but before we dive into the show a little bit more, let's remind everybody, hey, we're going to still do it. We got 2 more weeks basically of hockey left. They've dragged it out. The Black Bears want to make us poor and make us pay for more posters, and that's okay. We're glad to do it. So the 11 by 14 poster giveaway is back this week, and we are weeks into running the poster giveaway, months at this point. And of course, the response has been awesome. And yes, we're going to do it again this week on this episode. At some point during tonight's show, we're going to drop a secret code phrase. It's a pretty cool one. I like it. When you hear it, that's your cue. Send it directly to Taylor through Facebook Messenger. Taylor will be watching the inbox, and if you're the winning message number tonight, you'll score an 11 by 14 Black Bears poster giveaway of your choice, or poster of your choice, ready to pick up at an upcoming home game, which we're hopefully going to have only one left, but maybe two. I think there's going to be at least 2 home games left. So stay locked in, don't zone out, and be ready, because that code phrase could come at any time.
Listen, I hope that, as much as I would love 2 home games, part of me hopes that they do it in one, specifically for the numbers that we will get into later, just because it would be hysterical.
Okay. Go ahead.
Black Bear fans, do us a quick favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the show. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you're following the podcast and leave us a rating. It's completely free to do, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube and Spotify to push the show out to more Binghamton Black Bear fans and more hockey fans just like you. Drop a comment too. We read them and we love hearing from you.
Okay, so I think I know what the number scheme is already that you're thinking about, right? 10, 9, and 8.
Yep.
If I just say that's enough, you understand it?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. The Power Play Post is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and please don't forget to subscribe. Got a lot of subscribers across all of everything from the PPP Show, Bob, from the Power Play Post Show Facebook group, YouTube, Spotify. Everything has been going up really nicely over the past couple weeks. So thank you very much. Keep doing that. Join the conversation on Facebook, search Power Play Post Show, and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net, your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton hockey. And coming up on this episode of the Power Play Post Show from the Binghamton Black Bears, you're going to get part 1 of an interview with Jacob Shankar, who was upset with me because Taylor wasn't there. Part 1 of an interview with defenseman Camron Cervone. And I want to say this. In my second part, the first question in the second part of my interview with Cam Cervone, a very serious question and a very serious conversation that I had with Cam that involves Dominic Tomei. So that'll be very interesting. So that'll be coming up next, on Sunday on that broadcast. Plus, because I want to get the other side of the challenge this upcoming weekend, we do have my friend, Pee Dee broadcaster, and Tom Callahan back on the show. So I'm very excited for that. But Taylor, in case somebody's been living in a tunnel, under a rock, somewhere in anywhere that just doesn't know what's going on, can you please give us the final schedule?
So the final schedule, and I feel like this is very important to say because I saw a post about somebody, not of our fan base, but somebody of the other fan base, being very confused by this. So the finals is a best of 5, meaning whoever wins 3 games wins. You might play all 5 games, but whoever wins 3 of those games obviously takes the championship.
Right.
So game 1 is Friday, May 1st in Florence, South Carolina at 7:15 p.m. Game 2 is Saturday, May 2nd in Florence, South Carolina at 7:15 p.m. Both of those games are this upcoming weekend. Yep. Then the following weekend, so game 3 is Friday, May 8th, which is a very important day, which I will get into in just a moment, in Binghamton at 7 p.m. And I hope they can do it in 3, even though part of me would like more home games. Game 4 is a Saturday, May 9th in Binghamton at 7 p.m. if necessary. And game 5 is Sunday, May 10th in Binghamton at 6 p.m. if necessary.
Okay.
Now, I said May 8th.
Yes.
Because May 10th will be the 2-year anniversary of the Black Bears' first championship May 9th will be the 1-year anniversary of the Black Bears' second championship. So how fitting would it be if May 8th was the third championship for the Black Bears?
Yeah, so May 8th, May 9th, May 10th. Obviously, that would be such a cool thing. But they would have to win the series in 3 games, and there's no guarantee that that would happen. But it would mean that if for some reason they won in 4 games, there would be 2 championships on May 9th. If they won in 5 games, there would be 2 championships on May 10th. And if they won in 3 games, they would have a championship on the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th of May, which would be pretty awesome.
It would be hysterical.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. I put that in there and I was like, let's see if she picks up on how cool that would be if May 8th would be the thing. See, you're way smarter than I am. All right. The only 2 games that have been played between these 2 teams, the Pee Dee IceCats and the Binghamton Black Bears. Let's talk about that. Friday, January 23rd, 2026, the Black Bears win the first meeting between the back-to-back champions and one of the newest teams in the FPHL by the score of 6-3. Now, in that game, Pee Dee struck first at the 3:54 mark of the opening period as Dominik's Marcinkiewicz put the IceCats in front 1-0. Binghamton tied the game 11 seconds into the second period with an Ivan Bondarenko when he scored his 8th goal of the season to make it 1-1. Pee Dee regained the lead at 4:23 on a goal from Houston Wilson. The Black Bears pulled even again at 8:48 when Jacob Shankar, returning from injured reserve, converted a feed from Kyle Steffen to make it 2-2. Now, remember, that was when Jacob had come back to the Black Bears. Binghamton took its first lead of the night to 14 remaining in the period as Scott Romaker scored his 7th of the season. Then Pee Dee answered before the second intermission, with another Dominik's Marcinkiewicz recording his 2nd goal of the game to tie the score at 3-3. With 55 seconds left to go in the period. Binghamton went back in front on the power play. So this is a back and forth game with 9:57 left to go in the third as Mac Jansen scored with Timur Razilov serving a hooking minor. Okay. Now the Black Bears added another power play goal with 4:53 left to go when defenseman Dan Stone scored his 5th goal of the season. I think it was like his 3rd power play goal, too, at the time. After Matt Gilbert, former Binghamton Black Bear, was penalized for slashing, with Pee Dee goaltender Parker Rutherford pulled for an extra attacker. CJ Stubbs sealed the game with an empty net goal in the final 32 seconds to make it 6-3. Now, at that point, the Black Bears improved their record to 33-0 with 88 points, while Pee Dee dropped 11-17-3. The teams met again on Saturday night in Binghamton. And in that game, Parker Rutherford did play the game, 58 minutes, 39 goals, or 39 save attempts, 34 actual saves. He took the loss. Dominic Tomei, full 60 minutes. He gave up 3 goals on 25 shots for the win. And Taylor, again, this was the game where I think I remember saying to you and a couple other people, this was the game where you really saw a team play run and gun and go up and down the ice as much as they wanted to against the Black Bears and get some success. And obviously, Marcinkiewicz was one of those guys that was really able to move the puck really well up and down the ice.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those games where, first time meeting a team and you kind of pick up on who you need to watch out for and who to pay attention to for sure. Yeah.
All right. So going into the next night.
Saturday, January 24th, 2026, Pee Dee answers back with a 4-0 shutout win, the only shutout the Black Bears suffered in defeat. After a turnover in the offensive zone, the IceCats transitioned quickly the other way and entered the Black Bears' end. Dominik Marcinkiewicz threaded a pass across the slot, past defenseman Dan Stone to Alexander Ledkoff, who converted for the game's opening goal at 3:50 of the first period. Marcinkiewicz factored into scoring again, but this time it was Patrick's, who found the back of the net. He finished a well-placed feed from Dzane Zajac, extending the IceCats' lead at 10:10 of the first period. Despite sustained pressure at both ends of the ice, the second period remained scoreless as neither the Black Bears nor the IceCats could capitalize on their opportunities. Dominic's Marcinkiewicz extended the IceCats lead 3-0 after capitalizing on a Black Bears turnover at the 3:44 mark of the final period. With the Black Bears at net empty for the extra attacker in the closing minutes, Pee Dee added the lead as Zanis Zajac scored the fourth and final goal with 1:22 remaining. So Parker Rutherford played 59 minutes and 58 seconds. He faced 35 shots and saved all 35 shots with the win. Dominic Tomei played 56 minutes and 25 seconds, facing 16 shots and saving 13, and he took a loss that day.
This was one of my least favorite losses for the Black Bears. They really didn't have an answer for the Pee Dee IceCats in the second night. This was the Saturday night, and it was my least favorite because it seemed like, okay, they just didn't have anything that they could combat. And Pee Dee had a lot of speed on that ice, going up and down the ice, and the Black Bears just couldn't slow them down.
It kind of reminded you of what happened on Saturday.
Yes.
This game had a lot of turnovers. I think that was kind of the big takeaway, was the amount of turnovers that definitely happened.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So what can we take from those two series, right? Because
not a whole lot, in my opinion.
You don't think so? Okay. What? No, go ahead. No, explain.
Well, I mean, aside from a couple other players that are still a part of the team, but I don't remember which one just came back, whether it was Dominic's or I think it was Patrick's just came back.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. One of the brothers just came back from the SP, so I don't remember how long he's been gone. So I know sometimes it can kind of, take a little bit to kind of get back into a system. We're not facing the same goaltender. I mean, I truly do think that Rutherford played on his head for those games. He definitely did outstanding for those two games. And they have Colgan, and let's be honest, we know him pretty well from being in Watertown.
Okay.
And he didn't fare too well.
That's fair, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Will we actually see Parker Rutherford in the series? And let's do this together. No, we're not. Okay, so on February 17th, 2026, Brendan Colgan was traded to the Pee Dee IceCats from the Watertown Wolves for financial considerations. With Watertown, Colgan was 7-13-3 with a .469 goals against average and an .878 save percentage. Now, to be perfectly fair, and Taylor, you would agree with this, not like he had the greatest defense in front of him when he was with, obviously, the Watertown Wolves. There was just no help, no support. They couldn't score goals, and they played Binghamton 1,000 times, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So, but with Pee Dee, he is 7-3-0 with a 2.51 goals against average and a .915 save percentage. So with a lot more structure in front of him, better defense, an offense that obviously is a good offense. We won't take away that from Pee Dee. His numbers are better in that regard. Would you agree?
Yeah, and sorry, I was looking at his, the next numbers, and I was waiting for but they're not good in this regard.
Well, yeah, this season, Colgan versus the Black Bears, he is 1-6-1 in 9 meetings, right? And I'm not going to go through all the meetings here, but what stands out to me the most, and I put these in here for us to really kind of talk about, his goals against in some of these games that we played against him in, with Watertown, he gave it 8 goals twice, 6 goals twice, 4 goals twice, then 3 goals, then 2 goals, then 1 goal. The only number he didn't hit there is 5. And it would have been really nice in 7, but that's okay. But I think if the Black Bears go back and watch video of how they scored against him, I'm guessing that there are things that he tells, so to speak, that they will be able to still exploit even on Pee Dee. And I think that's something that is very important here. That's why I don't think Colgan is the big effect, right? I think the young players like Alexander Legoff and obviously the two brothers, they're the guys that if Pee Dee's going to win this thing, they're going to win them because of them guys, not necessarily because of Colgan. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. And I definitely think that Colgan and net is not going to be the deciding factor for these games. If they took Cooper and they somehow, took Cooper from Port Huron, then, it could be a completely different story. But truthfully, I don't think Colgan has what it takes to stop the Black Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And even if Pee Dee has a chance to slow down the Black Bears or get in their way, the feeling that I have is that, Port Huron could play bad in front of Cooper and still rely on Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pee Dee can do that with Colgan and still expect him to be able to come out with the win on top of that.
Now, last year in the playoffs, Colgan versus the Black Bears, he was 0-2 in the two meetings. Now, I don't think he played terrible in those two games, and I think they had a better team back on April 19th and April 19th in 2025 when the two teams met each other in the first round of the playoffs. Now, the Black Bears did win. He only gave up 3 goals in either one of those two games, and his save percentage was pretty good at .930 and .917. So I know with a better squad in front of him, he'll play better. His numbers will look better. They obviously proved that between Watertown and Pee Dee this year. But again, he unfortunately has a really bad record against the Black Bears. And I wonder if they lose the first 2 games down in Pee Dee, they come back up to Binghamton. Does maybe Gary Graham, their head coach, decide I'm going to put Parker Rutherford in for game 3? It'll be interesting to see if he does that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're not going with him to begin with.
Really?
I don't know. I guess it's definitely a tough decision there. I don't know what you would do in that situation because, kind of do you keep the Brant Sherwood mindset of, Dom did have that Saturday game where it wasn't the best, but can you really blame Dom for what happened in that game? Or do you just you keep him in net because you have that trust? He's gotten you this far into the season. Well, I guess they can't really say that about Colgan if they made the trade in February. So I don't know. It's totally different circumstances. This is why I'm so glad not to be a coach.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
No, I don't blame you at all. Okay, so let's go into the player changes that obviously a lot of people have talked about. And I know there's a lot of names here that we're going to talk about. There's about 7, 8, maybe. No, there's more than 7. There's like 11, 12 names here. And we're not going to go into depth details. We're just going to read them off and whatnot. I don't think it's as much as everybody was making it out to be, but I understand that 3 or 4 or 5 of these players could make a big effect. So why don't you go through these?
I don't really know if it was. I know Pee Dee was kind of making it seem like it was a huge factor that, we're not the same team that you faced before.
Exactly.
Well, we only faced you twice, and you can't really. I mean, look at Port Huron. We faced them 9 times this season, only lost 1 game, but yet look at the series they gave us. So,
right.
But anyways, the Pee Dee roster changes. Since the January games, these are the players no longer with the IceCats that we saw in January, which is Matt Sales, who was a goalie, Matt Gilbert, the D-man, the former Black Bear that we had kind of mentioned when we were talking about those 2 games, Nathan Carl, and the beloved Trevor Lord, who went to Topeka that we remember from the first round of the playoffs.
Now, I have a feeling, Taylor, that Trevor Lord leaving was a benefit to the Pee Dee IceCats. I'm hearing some rumblings that maybe he was not happy there, and this was a move to make the team better by subtraction, if you understand what I'm saying there.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I know at one point you talked about him, and I had said the same exact thing that Brant did, and you were kind of taken back by that.
I know, I was.
And it's something that I saw it, and I can't unsee it from him. And I don't know. He's one of those players that it's kind of like Gesso in effect. Like, I don't think he's as bad as Gesso. And I think, Gesso's own issue on the ice is something completely.
He's a freaking head case.
A nutcase.
Yes, he's a nutcase.
In the sense of, like, he's hard to play on a team with. Like, he doesn't have that team mentality, and that's very hard to have in something like this.
And yeah, I thought, Taylor. And I thought when they got him early on in the season, I thought he was going to be the right person to go in there, fresh start away from Watertown, to help build a brand new franchise. I thought, okay, this is the guy that could do it because he's got some of the skill. He's already been a leader. Why can't this work? And then obviously within a few months, he was gone.
I can't say that I'm surprised. And again, it has to do with that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
In the NHL, you can probably get away with that, that selfish kind of mindset where, you might have a player that they only kind of do this one specific thing. And, there's a couple players that kind of come to mind with that. Like Ovechkin, he stands in one spot on the ice, but he scores. And that's literally like what he does. Doesn't really do anything else. And, it's kind of like Don Oliveira. He didn't chase the puck like everybody else did. He kind of stayed at the blue line, but he had that slap shot. He definitely gave, like, when it hit the glass, everybody jumped. Didn't matter. The glass was there or not. Everybody was jumping when it hit. And so you just can't really get away with that kind of mindset in this league. So I can't say that I'm surprised to see him go. Hopefully he either changes his mindset or he ends up somewhere where he does fit in for that aspect. Because I think he's a good player, but the mindset definitely is what kills it for me.
Okay. What players did PD bring in?
So as we've already talked about, they brought in Brendan Colgan, who's obviously the goalie from Watertown. They brought in Elijah Wilson, who played in Topeka this season for 39 games. He had 17 goals, 18 assists for 35 points. They brought in Jake Hamilton, Drew Welch from Port Huron and Danbury. Plus this season, he had 32 games in the SPHL. And I believe he's inactive still. I mean, last I looked, he was inactive. I don't remember if he still is or not.
He played 2 games for PD in the playoffs. So he is active now.
Okay. Jake Cox, Ben Pezzamenti, Gage Reimer, who is a college rookie goalie.
So, and then realistically, you read the last part. Since that time period, how many changes have we had?
2. C-Mac and Sirota came back because they were in Peoria.
And I think we added a few of the college rookies too, like Sam Holy and stuff like that. But regular players, yeah, it was really just C-Mac and Sirota that came back because they were in Peoria in January. Elijah Wilson's a great player. So without a doubt, that was a pickup for them. That was definitely very good. And Drew Welch, when he's in the lineup, he's excellent. He's one of the guys that Port Huron brought in, that Trine line from Trine University at the end of last year. And he eventually went to Danbury because he got picked up in the expansion draft. But again, a very good player. I actually think he's going to develop into a very good pro hockey player. So those are the changes. And I got to be honest with you, because we know Brendan Colgan so well. And Elijah Wilson is definitely a good pickup. I am not going to take anything away from his abilities as a hockey player, as somebody who can score and play a part of a system. But Brendan Colgan is really the only one there that, is supposed to have that cachet name. And I don't know if it matters because we know him so well. The Black Bears players that are on this team right now have played enough games against Colgan. They know what he's good at. They know if he's good down low. They know if he's good up high. They know if he's, if they can shoot on glove side. I don't think that Brendan Colgan is that guy. And again, I've already said it once. I'll say it again. I don't think he's that guy that's going to make the difference in this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that aspect. And maybe that's kind of why we don't have the anxiety that we do. Coming into Port Huron, that they're a tough team overall. But then, Cooper is an excellent goalie. And he, we've put him, it was, Dominic, and then we put Cooper.
Yeah.
That was kind of like how we ranged some of the goalies in this league this year. And I would agree with that 100%. I don't even know if Colgan would be in my top 5. I don't really have a top 5 in my head at the moment, but I just based on kind of what we've seen from him. And again, Watertown wasn't doing the greatest this year.
No.
They had a really rough, kind of thing going on for them. So I don't 100% blame Colgan, but at the same time, your job as a goalie is to stop pucks. And if your team's not playing in front of you, you still have to stop those pucks. So it's definitely that goalie's the hardest job out there on the ice aside from the refs. So Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe why we're not too stressed about going into the series, is because we know Colgan so well. And maybe they did bring in a couple players, which I figured out. My issue was I was thinking of a different Danbury player. It was Noah Robinson. He's on the inactive list and not Drew Welch.
Gotcha.
So that was just my mess up there. But, it's some of these names kind of sound familiar, and, people that we've seen before. And Colgan's just another one of those. And if that's their big thing and how they think that they're going to beat Binghamton, I think they've got another thing coming.
Yeah, I don't think these changes are that big enough. Now, again, some of these players I don't know 100%, but I just don't think that Brendan Colgan is going to be the guy. Again, if they're going to beat us, they're going to beat us because of the brothers. They're going to beat us because of Alexander Legoff. They're going to beat us because Elijah Wilson, Houston Wilson. Those are the players that are going to beat us if they're going to win. And those are the guys that are going to figure it out against us. That's in my opinion. I think our shooters are going to be fine on Brendan Colgan. I think their shooters have to figure out how to get past our defense and get past Dominic Tomei, more so than us having to figure out how to get past Colgan. We already know how to do it. We've already done it. They've already got the notes written down. They know what to look for. Now, with that being said, that's because we faced Colgan so much. We don't have to study Colgan as much as they have to study, Tomei. We can actually go in and start studying their first line, their second line, breaking down how they play, how they move, and what to do to stop that. And I think that's where Coach Q and Coach Sherwood are truly going to, be the big factors in this series.
Yeah, definitely. And, throwing Tyson out there on the ice, I'm sure he'll be able to get in Colgan's head a little bit easier than he wasn't able to get into Cooper's. And Cooper started to break down at some of those points. He started to feel under his skin. He started to, feel that, that glorious word that I said at the beginning of the show. He felt that pressure. And, they were definitely doing what they could to get under him. And I think Colgan's a little bit easier to do that with. I don't think he has the meltdowns, to say he doesn't act like Babin. Cooper was definitely losing his mind on some of the points during those games. But I do think Colgan's somebody that you can score on him once you do that. And we've seen it so many times of, Port Huron, especially trying to do anything to get a reaction out of Dominic. And they just absolutely could not, because you can't get any kind of reaction out of Dominic aside from just the laid back, just does not care, has no worry in the world type of demeanor from him. And, that was definitely something that we had talked about, in regards from him and Connor, is that, Tomei, and I don't mean this in any kind of negative way, but Connor had that super strong backbone where if you ran your mouth off to him, he was going to run it back, but he also just didn't care.
Yeah.
And he was if you shoved him, he was going to shove you. It was one of those things where if you did something to him, he would do something back, but not in an extent that would cause any, he's not going to get in trouble. He's not going to get yelled at by the refs or anything like that. But where Tomei, you straight up, they cross-checked him. Could you imagine somebody cross-checking Connor?
No, they would be dead.
It's one of those things where we kind of talked and we were joking about it, Tomei he seriously does not have a worry in the world. And it's, again, why goalies are absolutely crazy. But so there's nothing that they're going to do to kind of rattle Dominic if that was any kind of intention, which I don't truly think it is. No. I think that was kind of Port Huron's play for some of their stuff. I don't know if PD plays that way at all. I think they're more of just they're out there to play hockey type.
Yeah, they actually have said, I've watched a few things this week that they've released. Mike Ronan, who is one of the guys that runs the team, he analyzed the way their team plays, and he goes, we just like to, run and gun and play hockey. We don't really like to get into the physical stuff. And I'm going, great. That's awesome. You keep doing that, because that's the way we like to play. We don't need to play like we play against Port Huron to beat teams. We've already proven that multiple times. Now, the Black Bears have told me multiple times, we like to play physical. We like to get into the muck. We like to do all that kind of stuff. The funny thing is when you actually watch the team play, they don't do it when another team isn't doing it to them first. They will then go and just rely on their high skill and beat you that way. All right, Taylor, it is time for the 11x14 poster giveaway. Please tell the fans this special code phrase. It is something they've heard before, maybe even just about 3 days ago.
Champions find a way.
Okay, fans, if you're the 11th person to message Taylor on Facebook with the special code phrase, champions find a way, you will win an 11x14 poster of your choice. The winner gets to choose from any current Black Bears player and will deliver the poster at an upcoming home game. Send in that special code phrase now, and thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show. And last week, we got to give one of our fans a Connor McAnanima poster, and I got to be honest with you, she was so happy. And even after, what was it game 2? She got it signed. And so that was a really cool and special moment.
Well, it was the game we lost, I think.
Yeah, game 2.
Well, was it? Yeah, I see. I'm already messed up on the series and finals. Like, I'm already in finals mode. Yeah, it was game 2 after the loss, and I may have set it up so she could have, gotten down to the player's corner and got to meet him and get a sign and get a picture with him, which I did receive the picture. I think I sent it to you or showed you, or
you did.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember entirely at this point. But it's one of those things that it was absolutely a blast to be a part of and to kind of be able to set it up that way. And, for Steve to be as awesome as he was, he actually brought a Peoria card of Connor as well that he got sent from Peoria, and, had it sent down and had Connor sign that. So she had an extra little special something to kind of go with it. And it's just, again, one of those things that really shows like how just awesome everybody in this community is, from the families and the players, the coaching, the fans, just all around.
Even us.
And then
we're pretty awesome.
The next day, the mom had come up, and when I was down talking with Steve, and she had come over and started talking and just thanked us once again. And even when she made a post on Facebook talking about it and thanked us yet again. And it's one of those things where I never expected the posters to go this way. I was very excited about it. I hoped that it worked and it went well and people enjoyed it. But it's going so much better than I had ever anticipated it to.
Well, I can't wait to see what next year's poster looks like. You got to change it up now.
I'm already working on ideas in my head.
That's awesome. Okay, coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, we got 3 great interviews for you. We're going to play part 1 of our interview with Jacob Shankar. You'll hear that first. Then we'll sidle into our interview with Tom Callahan, the broadcaster from the Pee Dee IceCats. Please do not fast forward through it. He's one of the best broadcasters. He has been everywhere in North America calling games. And this season was not his first year or first time ever calling a game in PD. He actually, while he was in the ECHL, called a game there when the PD Pride was there. So he'd been in that arena before. And he also called one game for the BC Icemen back in our UHL days, which was pretty cool as well. Now, then after the Tom Callahan interview, we'll play our first part of our interview with Cam Cervone. So, and then when that's done, you'll hear mine and Taylor's voice again. I know, I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. It's a sad, sad thing. But we'll get through all that, and then we'll be back right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buchinski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. We're here at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena, sitting up here in the press box. And right now, it's not tub time because he's not in the tub, but it would be pretty cool if it was tub time with Jacob Shankar. Jacob, welcome back to the show. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be back on the show.
First of all, congratulations. You guys are going into the finals all season. A lot of hard work put into this to get to this point, but congratulations on making to the finals. And this is your first season pro, and you're going to be in the finals now.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a pretty special moment. Like on Sunday night there when we got the win, like looking up, seeing my family in the crowd, like seeing how excited they were, and looking at everyone's emotion on the ice. Like it's pretty surreal. But the job's not done. We got 3 more wins, and that's the real goal.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the series against the Port Huron Prowlers. Obviously a tough series. The Prowlers definitely brought it. Great game on Thursday in Port Huron, a 1-0 win for you guys. Mac Jansen getting a lone goal on the power play. Talk about that game real quick because that's one of those games where you're like, that's playoff hockey.
Yeah, it was a tight, hard-fought battle by both teams. Give credit to Port Huron. They played a solid game, right? Only leaving us to 1 goal on Thursday night. But I think, our legs and our play obviously helped us get the win. And Dom, there's not much you can say about him. That's not good. He had an amazing game, an amazing series. But 1-0, that's a road win.
Yeah, when we talk a little bit about, games like that, some people say, oh, maybe it's kind of boring. But when you really know the game really well, those are the games that are most intense, right? You go through the first period, there's no goals, and then you get the 1 goal, and then you got to go the rest of the way. And both teams are pressing. Both teams are trying to you guys are trying to get an insurance goal. They're trying to tie the game up. And do you feel the intensity on the ice between the two teams?
Yeah, you do, but for the playoffs, it's every moment's intense. I wouldn't say just because it's a close 1-0 game for us, we don't play like we have the lead. We're playing like we're trying to get the lead every shift.
Right.
So it's really just about 1 shift at a time, and playoffs is most intense because one mistake can cost you the whole season.
So then, obviously, you guys get that win on Wednesday or on Thursday, and obviously you guys come back, and it's a good feeling to come back with a win, right, on the road. Last season against Port Huron, they lost 4-0 in Port Huron, and coming back they had to get 2 wins, games 2 and 3, and they did so in shutout fashion. Of course, Connor McAnanima, he's the backup this year. But you guys come back and you have that 1-0 lead in the series. But then Saturday happens, and everybody probably was watching that game in the stands and including up here in the press box and going, what just happened? But that is one of those things, and you can comment on this, here in a second. That's one of those things where the team that's down, they know that they're eliminated if they lose, and they just play more desperate hockey. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, they played a really solid game on Saturday night, and I think we were probably a little bit had travel legs from going to Topeka and then to Port Huron. That's a long time on a bus between those 2 trips, and unfortunately I don't think we brought our A game, but it didn't really matter because on Sunday we did, and we knew what was at stake, and we all want to win, and that's what we did.
What was the message after Game 2 from Coach?
The message was, be upset for tonight, but tomorrow's a new day, and, that's going to be for the season. So, bring your A game.
Yeah, the mentality is like you got to be, you hate to lose, right? And that's got to be almost as important as loving to win, right? But you got to hate to lose, but you got to wake up the next morning and not think about it. Is that easy to do or hard to do?
I mean,
that's a hard question, right?
Yeah, that is a hard question. I would say it kind of depends on, the person. There's plays in every game where you wish you could, go back to that play and make a different play. And I think, a lot of us were probably thinking that after the game on Saturday, but, part of being a pro is being able to flush it and move on and, think about the next shift, the next opportunity, and how you're going to respond.
Right.
And that's something that, Scherzi preaches as well, and I think we've done a great job of that this year.
And then, of course, the game happens. Well, in that Saturday game, Mac Jansen's out. You move up to the line with C.J. Stubbs and Ivan Bondarenko. It's not the first time you've played up there with those guys, correct? this year? I thought you did once or twice.
It's the first time like I was there at the start of the game.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Because in Watertown, it was me and Swain. We were rotating.
Yeah.
We were playing with those lines.
Yeah.
But it was like the first time where I was like on the top line, and I was just like, whoa. This is a lot of pressure.
Now, do you have to change your style of play when you go from playing with Tyson, where you guys can go out there and just bang the crap out of people, right, to obviously then going and playing with Stubbs and Bondarenko, and you got to think, oh, I got to be a playmaker here.
I mean,
it's a different mentality, right?
It is a different mentality. It's more like when you're playing with two guys, that skilled, even though everyone on our team is very skilled.
Yes.
It's a little daunting because you want to get them the puck as much, so you do kind of change your play. But if you're playing your best, you shouldn't be changing your play. Which
that's fair.
Which I think I don't think I did a great job of that on Saturday. I was kind of changing my play, and then that's kind of what happens when big moment comes up. Sometimes you seize it. Sometimes you try to do a little too much.
Now, was there any constructive criticism from coach after the game for you with your play? I'm not saying that you played bad, because I'll be frank with you. I'll tell you what I said to everybody on the show. I said, without Mac putting Jacob up on that first line, moving Gavin from the 10th forward position into the Tyson Kirkby line, I thought it just kind of made you guys all a little bit out of sync. Maybe because you guys didn't practice that way a couple times ahead of time. Things of that nature, because that does have an effect on games when a change happens like that. And to me, visually, it looked like it. But I wanted to ask you. Tough question.
I don't think it made us out of sync. I think it was just kind of one of those games where it just didn't go our way, and that just kind of happens. I think if it happens, 9 more times, I think the result's different. Every time from what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, and also we have to give credit to Port Huron. The way they played was different than the way they played on Thursday, which helped drive their scoring chances and whatnot. Plus, if you guys get that one goal that was waved off, boom, it's a different game completely. Mm-hmm. And then game 3, you told me almost that you weren't nervous going into that game. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I'd from Saturday where I was so nervous that felt like I was going to be sick in the locker room to Sunday there were no nerves there whatsoever. I think it was just, I don't know if it was the calming presence of the room or coach. It was just, I had no nerves. I knew it was just another game and that we were the results were going to be in our favor.
And Mac gets the 2 goals. And I called him Big Goal Mac because he obviously scored 3 goals in this series that really, really helped. Obviously the team basically secured 2 wins, the 2 wins that were needed. When he's back in the lineup, what's it like? When you're sitting on the bench and you're watching him out there with the 3 of them, what's it like to watch those 3 work?
They have unbelievable chemistry. They seem to know where each other are at all moments on the ice. You can see it, Bondo's 2 cross-ice passes through the seam to Janny backdoor. It's just they're a special group together, and it's it's fun watching him play. And like you said, Big Goal Mac, he came to play, and we really missed him on Saturday. Not only on the ice, but in the room, he's a vocal guy, and having him in there, I think also helped calm the team down.
We talked to him after that game, and he was emotional. I mean, he was emotional, and he got choked up a little bit as we were talking to him because he said he felt like he was letting his brothers down by not being there on Saturday, and yet he's one of the big reasons why you guys are in the finals because of his play. What does that mean to you guys that someone who just came in from the SPHL and Ivan did the same thing. They come in and they care so much about not just winning and playing and whatnot, but they care so much about the group, the dynamic of everybody in that locker room.
Mac's a leader, and obviously, he was captain of, I think, Roanoke for a couple of years or however many years, and I think it's also a testament to our leadership crew to, having everyone be so close and this is my first year, but
Yeah.
it feels the same. Like I feel like I've been playing with these guys my whole life.
Really?
And I think
Well, Tyson kind of is.
Tyson kind of.
You've known him for so long.
Yeah, but it's crazy what a season this long can do, and how it can bring everyone closer together. And Janny, Stubbsy, Bondo, all coming in, and our leadership crew just bringing everyone together. It's just something special.
So PD's coming up. What do you remember from the 2 games against PD?
They have small, skilled forwards who don't like the physical play, and I think if we get on the forecheck, we can hem them in their zone, and we need to play down there.
Have you guys already looked at some video from those 2 games, or is that something that maybe will be on the bus ride out or on Thursday?
Yeah, I think we'll probably do it on Thursday at the hotel before practice. Look at the video, look at their power play, look at their PK, their in zone, their rushes, their tendencies, and then focusing on a few key players for them and figure out what we need to do to make it a little bit harder on them.
Is there anybody in particular you want to hit on that team?
Everyone.
I like it. So you have no preference, and you'll hit anybody that gets in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hit anyone. There's obviously a few guys that come to mind that I'm going to focus in a little bit on. If there's a scrum or something like that, I'm probably going to try to go after them. But nothing dirty, just hard physical play, make their lives a little bit tough, and hopefully that gets them mad enough where they punch me in the face and I can just smile at them.
How exciting is it to be going into the finals? I just saw you guys on the ice after the game and the handshake and everybody's doing all that. But how exciting is it for you guys as a unit to be going into the finals?
The feeling in the room isn't so much excitement. After the game it was.
Yeah.
After the game it was excitement. We celebrated, we were pumped up. But now it's more of, okay, we're here, we've been here for 2 years. The job's not done. We have 3 more wins to get the title and bring it back home and keep it here. So it's more, put the work boots on.
Yeah, because when I was watching practice today, everybody was serious. I think Tyson probably was the, having the most fun out there of anybody, and just tapping his stick and probably keeping everybody energized. But this was all very serious preparation. I mean, you guys have practiced all season long together, and you guys know what Jersey and Q are looking for. And yet nobody's taking a day off the Tuesday before game 1 on Friday.
Yeah, no, travel day tomorrow, so we wanted to have a good skate today and get our legs in us for, obviously we're going to be
on
traveling tomorrow, so it's not going to be an easy day or on the body anyways. So, to get a good skate, get a sweat in, and focus up for, the challenge at hand, because we split with PD when they came here.
Yeah.
So they're not like a team we're just going to run through. So
right, and you guys know the goaltender Brendan Colgan, who obviously played in Watertown a lot. I don't know if Parker Rutherford, who got that shutout against you guys back in late January, will even see any game action, because it'll probably be Colgan. He's a big goaltender in this league. He's done it for a while and whatnot. But that's why you can almost not take what happened in January too seriously about today, because teams change. This team and I think maybe Columbus were the only 2 teams that had the least amount of roster moves. But PD, they've made some moves. They've made some changes. And there's some guys on that team that you guys will be familiar with, like Alexander Legoff, who played obviously in Danbury for a while and then went down there. So you can't really put too much stock into what happened in January, right?
Yeah, no, and we were a completely different team in January too. I was watching that game on Sunday night actually, and you were looking at the roster, and our roster's different now than it was then. So they might be different, but so are we. They haven't seen us at our best, and I don't think we've seen them at their best. So it'll be a good series, and I'm looking forward to it.
Have you ever played in the Florence Center anytime in juniors or anything? Have you ever been down to South Carolina to play hockey?
No, never been down to South Carolina to play hockey. I guess when I was young, my parents would take us down to Myrtle Beach, but I'm too young to remember that. So juniors is mostly just in Canada.
Yeah, I figured. So I figured that this would be the first time that you hadn't, or the first time playing down there.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I am so happy he answered when I reached out and said, I would like to have you back on the Power Play Post Show, because honestly, after the last conversation I had with him privately, I didn't think he was going to be calling hockey games, but he is now down in Florence, South Carolina with the Pee Dee IceCats. He's a good friend of this show, a good friend of mine. He is, of course, Tom Callahan. Tom, welcome back to the show. It's great to talk to you. And for a guy who's living retirement right now, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, unretired into calling games here in PD, and wouldn't you know, we're in the final as an inaugural season franchise. That is a crazy, crazy thing all by itself, and it's actually been quite a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and what a great story for the Pee Dee IceCats. Coming into the league, there was, as I've heard the ownership group and I think Mike Ronan talk about recently is like, you start off, you think you're doing the right things, you make some changes because you have to make some changes, and then the season just gets better and better and better and better. You finish as the 4 seed in the Continental, and then you, boom, make it to the finals. A Cinderella story. What an interesting run it has been for the Pee Dee IceCats. They've also broken records with attendance and different things like that. It's been a really good year for a team coming back to Florence, South Carolina.
It really has. And I tell people all the time, coming down here, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the reception would be like. I didn't know if fans would come back, if they'd even remember hockey. But boy, do they. And we have a fair share of Pride jerseys at every single game.
That's awesome.
For a long time. Yeah. Waiting for it to come back. And it's been fantastic. And what's really cool are the people who come up to you and they say, I was a Pride fan when I was younger, maybe in some cases when I was a kid, and now they're bringing their kid to the games 20 years later. And they remember what it was like. And now they're starting that, generational flip, as I call it. Mm-hmm. I saw it happen in Nashville when I was with the Predators. They got to a point where the team came in 1998, and then right about 2010, 2011, you could see the flip happening, where the people who had grown up teenagers, early 20-somethings, that became their team. They glommed onto that, and then they grew up. They had families, turnaround kids, and now they're bringing their kids to games. Yeah. And that's how you grow roots in a community. And this inaugural season run for the Pee Dee IceCats has really firmly replanted those roots here in the hockey soil.
That's awesome. And now in your time, because you've been, as we chronicled the last time you were on the show, you've basically broadcasted at every single major league that it has played in North America. Did you ever call a game at the Florence Civic Center before you went down there this year?
I did.
You did?
I did. When I was with the Augusta Lynx in the ECHL, that was the last year of the Pride. I think was my first year. Might have been second year in Augusta. And we were there a lot. When I first moved to Augusta, it was the golden age of the ECHL for travel in the Southeast. We had like 7 teams within a couple hours.
That's awesome.
Because you had Atlanta, Augusta, Charlotte, Columbia, Pee Dee, Charleston. So that's 6 right there. I might be forgetting somebody in there. Columbus wasn't that far away. They were only in there for 1 year. So actually, I called a game in Columbus before I went back there. And then, of course, you had, the Florida Everblades. It was a great little spot. There was a lot of hockey coverage within that area. And obviously it's different now between the coast, the SP and the FP. Things have changed a lot, but man, it was crazy going back in there. I jokingly refer to the booth as the Joe Babick booth, broadcast booth. Although Joe, who's now the head of ECHL communications, Pee Dee never did home games on the radio. They only did away games.
Oh, wow.
So Joe was the PA guy at home. So he'd be more comfortable sitting down where Chris sits in the PA box than he would be up where I am probably. But yeah, that same place, we're wedged up there in the corner, and same view. I mean, I walked in there and it was just, 20 something years later, but looked the exact same. Seats are the same color. They have since improved the lighting. There's a scoreboard, a center hung scoreboard now, and stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely hit the recall button.
That's so interesting. And it would be fair to probably say, because of your history, you might be the one guy in broadcasting that has probably seen more barns because of so many different levels and so many different leagues than probably anybody in broadcasting in the last 25, 30 years.
It's a crazy thought.
It is. You probably have not kept track of all the buildings you've been in, have you?
I haven't, but I could probably go through and track them down fairly easily. Yeah. I never even thought about that, but that's an interesting thing to think about, because even being in the old Western Pro Hockey League, there were a bunch of buildings there that I got to see that, I might not even be there anymore. And then, of course, the United League, there is at least one I can guarantee you isn't there anymore, and that's the New Haven Coliseum.
I was going to say New Haven, yeah.
Yeah, New Haven's long gone, and I'm sure a lot of them have been either given a facelift or or doing something else now. But yeah, the Coast, the American League, the National Hockey League, and now, of course, the FPHL. It's kind of crazy to think about. And a lot of those SP teams, I've been in those buildings with different leagues. Yeah, with especially in the old Western Pro League, U-Haul, and East Coast League days. It was just a different geography back then. And in a lot of ways, I kind of miss it, because you had a lot more regional rivalries. Now I feel like everything's split up a lot, and it's just not quite as much fun. I loved the American Hockey League when it was just a bus league. Yeah. Up in the Northeast.
Yeah. No, trust me. Me too. I definitely love that. There was a time in one season of doing the Power Play Post Show that I was in, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, 3 teams in New York, 3 teams in Pennsylvania. And I could literally hit all of those in such an easy drive and go have like a face-to-face with the media director or the play-by-play broadcaster who I'd had on the show, talk to some coaches. So easily done through just a simple drive back when it was, the Northeast like that. So I 100% agree with you on that. But let's talk about Pee Dee. Let's talk about this team and what the coaching staff has done there, because they did make some changes. They brought in some players, and the team just started to catch fire and get, better and better as the season went along.
I think the personality of this team really started to change once and I've asked Gary Graham this question 100 times, and Nick Graham's our director of hockey ops, and between the two of them putting things together, they came in with a mix that they thought would work, but didn't know. And Gary has never coached in this league before. Nick has never put a team together in this league before. So the experience of doing that definitely taught them some things. Also, you've got to build your network and your connections to a point where you trust the opinions that you're being given about players, because sometimes you can call for a reference on a guy, and I suppose it'd be the same in real life on a job. And the reference you get is glowing, but it's somebody's buddy sticking up for him and saying nice things just so they'll get a job. And you begin to learn and figure out who you can trust and who you should take with a grain of salt when they tell you something. That's why I think it's been a learning experience the first half of the year and even into the second half of the year. But also, there's no accounting for chemistry. There's no accounting for, this guy didn't work in 2 other places. Why is he going to work here? There's characteristics that Gary looks for and that Nick look for. And, here's the other stereotypical no-no that this team does is you're not supposed to have a lot of Eastern European / Russian players on your team because it's supposed to destroy your team. It's supposed to be cliquey. It's supposed to be bad for morale. Nothing could be further from the truth with us. Like, that room loves each other. These guys are having so much fun. It's actually kind of cool. I haven't seen a room like this in a long time. And I do believe there's a lot to that. So when I look at what they built not only guys who have talent on the ice, but they built a certain kind of personality and a certain kind of, person that they want off the ice. And I think that that's really what took them more time to nail down than even the talent portion of the aspect of everything. I think they just really wanted to get the right personalities in there. And once they did, things really started to take off.
Was Zajac the first guy that they brought in that really started to change things for them? Because I know he spent, about 12 games between Danbury and Indiana before coming to PD. Was he the first guy that they brought in like after the season or had already started that really started to slowly but surely start to change things?
You're really going to make me go through our transactions, aren't you? Okay. So,
well, he's played 47 games, but 12 games also with two other teams, Danbury and Indiana. So he's played more than what the league normally plays of 59 this season.
Probably the biggest trade. Yeah. The biggest trades that I look back.
Legov.
Yeah, Legkov was a big one. Frolov was a big one, both coming out of Danbury. Those were huge for us. And then, getting Dennis from Zajac from Indiana, that was really the first one I think that moved the needle. You know who's kind of been under the radar, and we haven't talked much about it, but Charlie Bedard.
Oh, yeah.
To go all the way back to a move they made in October, Bedard just eats pucks. He gets in front of him. He comes back to the bench. And something always hurts because he works so hard and gets in front of shots. But he's been a very under the radar acquisition. But once Zajac got here, he's a puck possession monster. It's very hard for that guy to lose the puck. You really have to do something to separate him. And then you pick up, and you know what? Frolov didn't jump in right away. But another guy they brought in was Dominic Delasavita.
Yep.
Loved bringing him in. I think that was a tremendous move. And then, of course, Legkov was huge. Drew Welch has actually panned out pretty well. It took him a little while to get it going. But he really has started to pick it up and get it going. And so he's one. And then, the one that's super hard to ignore is obviously Brendan Colgan coming in was big. But, along the way, they made some adjustments, and some of the players going out actually helped make them better as well because they weren't the right personality or they weren't the right blend. They weren't the right skill set, whatever it was. Because you look on paper, Dustin Jesso, completely massively skilled player, puts up a lot of points. Trevor Lord was leading the team in power play goals, but it's just one of those things that's not what they were looking for at the time and what they felt they needed. And even if you on the outside looking in said, I don't understand why they're moving that guy.
Right.
Now in the long range vision, you kind of understand it was because there was a bigger plan in place with a bigger vision, and that's what they're realizing.
Yeah, I was one of those people that when I saw Trevor Lord go to PD initially, I was like, oh, here's an excellent guy to start building a brand new team with, because we saw everything that he did up in Watertown. And then the move happened, and I was like, oh, wait a second here. Why are they moving Trevor Lord? This doesn't make, too much sense to me. So I can see that sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, you don't always know what's happening underneath. And sometimes underneath is really the big thing. But bringing in a guy like Alexander Legov, who, we saw play against Binghamton a lot the last year and a half, and he is a phenomenal skilled player. Dustin Jesso, same type of player who's just so very highly skilled, but we've seen him go and leave places a lot of times for a lot of different reasons. And so it's interesting how Gary Graham has brought people in, shipped people out, brought other people in, and really has turned maybe, I don't want to say a ragtag because that's not the right way I want to say it, but a group of guys that maybe you wouldn't normally see come together and perform well, bring them together, and they're performing well.
Yeah, this roster is really, really good right now. It's deep. It is capable. And there's always room to get better. But boy, what they've done this year and the core they've built. And the other thing that's cool, even though this is a first-year franchise and a first-year market, is people want to be here. Players want to be here. The fans have been awesome welcoming the hockey back. And you know what? They've made it ownership-wise, just front office-wise, hockey ops side. They've made it a place these guys want to be and they want to play. And we hope they want to stay. So, yeah, I mean, if you don't fit in and you get traded out of here, there might be a little bit of remorse on the player end, you know? So you hope that the guys who come here, not only do they really want to be here, but they're great teammates. They show up every day. They work hard. And you know what? That's really what they're asked to do. This group that is assembled right now has done that. And that is why we've seen the success.
No, which is pretty amazing. So let's talk about how they got here. How did they get to the finals, which was having this amazing 2 games, which nobody probably expected except for the people in the PD locker room and maybe yourself, because you watched them almost all season long. They went through Athens like Athens was a blade of grass and they were the lawnmower. It was amazing what they did.
You know, the avalanche of goals, it wasn't too surprising. 15 in 2 games was surprising. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But you know the team's capable of it. When you look at the players, you look at Marcinkiewicz, you look at Legkov, you look at Frolov, you look at Zajac, you look at Houston Wilson, you look at all these players. There's a lot of depth, right? And there's a lot of guys on that team who can score. So you figured, okay. But then you started getting goals from the defense. Then you got goals from the third line. And that was on top of, I mean, Legkov had 9 points, I think, in the first 2 games of the series. The only 2 games of that series.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy because you had your scorer scoring, you had the defense scoring, and you had the third line depth guy scoring. So that's a lot of scoring. All we had to do was keep the puck out of our net reasonably, which we managed to do, win both games. So then coming, out of that series, the team felt pretty good about itself offensively, and it still had things it could work on and say, hey, we need to get better here. We can enjoy that. But I think, and I don't want to jump the gun on your next question, but I will say, I think that scoring 15 goals in 2 games against Athens might have made them look a little ahead of game 1 against Columbus.
Yeah, well, with Columbus, it seemed like they ran into a team that played a little bit more structured hockey. Not that Athens doesn't, but I think Athens relied a lot this year because we did see them twice in Binghamton. So I got a very good look at them where they could play and probably outmatch most teams run and gun wise. But when it came to structured hockey, it was a little bit different, which is why I think Binghamton, once they kind of cemented their systems in one of the games, they were able to beat them. Columbus plays a structured game all the time. And not saying that, PD couldn't compete with that. Clearly they could. And clearly when going into overtime, they got 2 big overtime goals to get themselves to the finals. But I think Columbus plays a little bit more of a structured game versus Athens, which I think did then rely on more defensive play, more goaltending, more, sometimes cycling the puck and, going low to high and trying to find the right places to score. And you're not getting as many goals because of that.
Columbus can be big and physical and hard to play against. Athens can be, but they weren't in that series. And I think us being a speed team, not that we can't play physical, but that's just not our chosen mode, right? And that's why the Binghamton matchup is going to be so interesting. But our chosen mode is to use our speed, try to get around, turn the D, get after pucks. If there's no battle for the puck if you get there first, you know what I mean? You don't even have to win a puck battle if you're faster than the other guy. And that's one of the things that, we have an abundance of. And I think that against Columbus, they made it a lot tougher to navigate the neutral zone. They made it a lot tougher to get those pucks in deep, to be able to go and get them. The first 5 minutes of game 1, they absolutely dared our guys to go to the front of the net and there were 5 Columbus players at the goal crease in front of Babin, which probably was also designed to keep him from getting into it.
Wow.
But all 5 guys were down, and I noticed it 5 or 6 minutes into that first period, first media timeout. That was it. They had won that game. And I the coach, will say a few things and the players will say things and whatever, but I mean, they won it in that first couple of minutes of game 1. And then we never had the appetite to really get back in there. Game 2 was different. This team kind of rallied itself and got going, and the just winning in the clutch the way they did both game 2 and game 3 was absolutely insane. But now you have a team that has A, blown out a team they shouldn't have, and B, fought again with their backs to the wall against elimination 2 nights in a row and come out on top both times. I will tell you this, the coming out of the Athens series gave the boys a big chip on their shoulder. It absolutely did, because no one picked them.
Yeah.
No one. And so they wore that pretty heavily.
But it also gives them a lot of confidence too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It did. It did. They felt like they could score at will, which is part of the problem. Wednesday night, they could not. And they couldn't do it again. You can't just score at will against Columbus. You're not going to be able to score at will against Binghamton.
Yeah.
So they're going to get the ball rolling for themselves, I think, and starting at home helps. Yep. The crowd here has been phenomenal, but honestly, I think now they've won 2 series 2 dramatically different ways.
Yep.
Now they are a very confident underdog with a chip on their shoulder. That's a frightening thing if you're Binghamton.
And the third aspect of that, right? Because chip on the shoulder, they have the confidence, and now they have the belief in themselves. Because when you win 2 games in overtime, you get goals from Houston Wilson, who first of all tied it up, and then scores the game winner. And then Frolov has the overtime winner in the other game. It's like now 2 of your big guys have that, belief in themselves, and they have the room has the belief in themselves to be able to play. That is what is going to help them probably going into the series against Binghamton, who, listen, everybody knows what Binghamton has done. They, it's been chronicled. It's been talked about. They're going for the 3-peat, something that hasn't happened in the Fed and really in single A hockey ever. And this team, a Cinderella team, a team that now has belief, a chip on the shoulder, and confidence.
And has shut up Binghamton in their own building.
Well, we weren't going to talk about that, but yeah, that's true. I mean, but they did that with Parker Rutherford, and Binghamton has seen, and this is the one thing that we can kind of combat the Parker Rutherford 4-0 shutout, is that we've seen Brendan Colgan multiple times, and I think the Black Bears players, this is probably one thing that's on their side a little bit, is that they know where to shoot on Colgan. And if there's a lane open, that does help Binghamton some in that particular case.
Yeah, and I will tell you this. I do know that it was not an easy decision for Coach Graham to figure out who he wanted to start. I think it was the right choice to start Brendan Colgan. Colgan has won a championship at this level, goaltender of the year honors. He's got a lot going for him. He is a much more veteran guy. And also, I will say this, he is even a different and probably more mature Brendan Colgan than the one that I encountered in Columbus. And he had his stuff together pretty well then.
Yeah.
But he's got a different outlook on things now, just on life in general, on hockey, on what it means to him. And I think he's very motivated to, try to get this team through into just through to the final and win a championship. But that's not to say that if they had to turn to Parker Rutherford, I mean, you feel, even though he hasn't played in 3 weeks, you feel pretty good sticking him in there just because of what he's accomplished, what he's done before. If it did come down to that, I could easily see them putting him in there and not batting an eye.
Fair enough. And of course, the Black Bears, Dominic Tomei has been great all year, probably going to be goalie of the year. I wouldn't doubt that. And yet behind him, because this is the more interesting part, they had the two-time Commissioner's Cup champion goaltender, Connor McAnanima, who has the playoff MVP from last year. This is such an interesting and probably one of them. Now, not to throw any disrespect to the Carolina Thunderbirds the last couple of years, this is probably one of the most interesting finals that the Fed has seen in a very long time, because you do have a true Cinderella story happening against a juggernaut, and it writes itself, so to speak.
It's a real David Goliath matchup.
It is. I like it.
And it's fun. And there's reasons to take either side, especially if you're from any other team in the Fed.
Yeah.
You can, if you're a fan of whoever listening in, you're either going to root for or against us or for or against Binghamton, and you'll have your reasons. And guys change teams often enough in this league that, your reasons might be your favorite player is here, there, or everywhere.
Right.
Or it just might be, boy, I hate that team.
No, absolutely. Tom, what should we expect this weekend if we're tuning in and either listening to you or Brooks Hill? What should we look forward to? Because I know for a lot of Binghamton fans, we have not played in the Florence Civic Center as of yet. This will be the first game for the Black Bears to play down there. What should we watch? I mean, I know the arena is about 25, 30 years old, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's a little bit older than that. But what should we expect to see? Is it going to be a big crowd on Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, so we're doing whiteout for both Friday and Saturday night for the crowd, and have everybody wear their white. And we had a great turnout the first time we did whiteout, and then they switched to blue and we lost on a Wednesday to get everybody to wear blue. And so white. We're wearing white.
Yep, can't do that again.
Yeah, nope. That you learned your lesson. So whiteout at home, games 1 and game 2 already. For a team that, led the league in attendance this year. And actually we set on Saturday night, the game 2 against Athens set the postseason record for largest single game attendance. I think we're going to break that this weekend. We are already around 4,000 sold for both games.
Nice.
This is actually traditionally a pretty good walk-up market. And also, here's a fun thing. If you're coming down from Binghamton and you're coming down for the weekend, get to the parking lot early and don't eat, because when you get there, there's something going on in Florence at the Florence Center called the Food Truck Rodeo.
Ooh.
And yes, so you want to talk about some amazing tailgating options? Oh my goodness, this is going to be wild. And of course, they scheduled this thing months in advance. They had no idea we'd be here. We're going to coexist with the Food Truck Rodeo on the weekend, and I think it's going to be absolutely crazy. And a good time. So yeah, it's going to be loud in there. It is a hard place for other teams to play. They've made a ton of upgrades, honestly, to the building this year. The only thing they haven't gotten to yet is the boards and glass.
Yeah. Everything
else, the lighting, scoreboard, all of our, obviously our broadcast cameras and everything are new because we're a new team, but you will see the old seats though.
But with an old timer broadcaster.
Yeah, and with an old guy on the microphone for sure.
I love you, Tom. You've been one of the greats, and you are one of the greats in minor league hockey who also got your time in the NHL, which was amazing. You have a great call on the radio. Easily my favorite, in the FPHL, just because of the fluidity, your experience, everything you do. You sound amazing on the broadcast. Thank you very much. I can't wait to see you next week. When you get to come back up here, I get to go over and say hello to you in the press box. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Again, just to sometimes just talk stories and whatnot. It's great. It's a pleasure. And I still find it ironic. You wanted to retire and now you're in the finals in the FPHL.
I know it's a crazy story. And with Buffalo being home for me and where I grew up, I mean, it's always great to come back to Binghamton. And I've got great memories of doing games in Binghamton in the early 2000s too. So when I was with the Elmira Jackals, and it's kind of cool. By the way, I don't know if I ever told you the story. Maybe I have, and maybe your listeners will be interested to know. I called exactly one game for the BC Icemen way back in the day.
Did you really?
So I did. I got a phone call, and it was probably the day before the game. and I don't remember exactly what the idea was, but Jason, the Iceman voice, was going to do TV.
Yeah, Jason Weitzman.
Right, and couldn't do the radio. So he called me, and it was a weekday game. We didn't have a game going on. He's like, can you come down and do the radio? It was against New Haven. And so I actually said, yeah, I'll come down and do your game for you. So I went down, did the BC Iceman, and I called it as I was the Iceman person. I was for BC.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did one game on the radio for the Iceman when he needed me to sub in for him. And so I had no problem doing that. But yeah, they were on TV that night. And so yeah, one time I had been a Binghamton broadcaster.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Well, you know what? Thanks to you. I really appreciate you coming back on. It's been a pleasure. And again, seriously, I cannot wait to see you next week. Hopefully these are two great games between the Black Bears and the Pee Dee IceCats, and obviously let the best team win for sure. And I just really appreciate you coming back on the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Well, he is former BC Iceman broadcaster for one game. And, of course, he is the current Pee Dee IceCats broadcaster and in charge of media there down in Florence, South Carolina. He is Tom Callahan. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back to the Power Play Post Show. It's always a pleasure to talk to this gentleman. And we're still here at the Veterans Memorial Arena. If you do hear some background noise, we're not really sure what the Zambonis are doing, but they're both out there at the same time. They've already cleaned the ice, and they are doing another clean of this ice a second time around. Oh, wait, I have to introduce who's here. Well, again, here on the Power Play Post Show, he is CC Cam Cervone. Cam, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Bob. It's always a pleasure being on. And it looks like, we're looking at the Zams right now. It looks like they're getting the ice ready for the finals next weekend. So
they're preparing for that already. Yep. Congratulations, number one, on getting to the finals. A finals that you get to play in this year because, of course, last year, slight injury that kept you out.
Yeah, it's definitely, now looking back, well, now a year later, it's definitely much more exciting now that I can play instead of being sidelined with just a slight injury there, we'll call it. But
oh yeah,
no, it's
when your playing career is done, we'll talk about that injury
for sure.
Yeah. But no, it must be exciting to really be able to get to now play in the finals after watching it last year.
100%. And it's crazy to think that a year ago I was, dealing with that slight injury. But in all seriousness, it really does feel good to, be out there playing, being part of the ups and downs of, the playoffs and being a part of this run. And it's definitely special in looking back all the hard work I've put in personally to come back from the injury, and just an exciting time of year. I'm excited.
So your first round matchup was against the Topeka Scarecrows. You guys probably recognized a lot of names on the back of the jerseys. A lot of those guys played either in Watertown, Motor City, places like that. But that was a long trip. Talk a little bit about that trip out to Topeka. How long did it take?
Oh my gosh, I think it was close to, with stops and everything, close to 20 hours, I'd say. Yeah, it was definitely a long trip.
Right.
But we were, we're definitely well taken care of on the road with the travel situation. So, it was definitely a fun time with the boys on the bus, and but those, and that's and speaking on that, that's always the fun time. Those times you're gonna look back at the end of the season, of the trips with the boys. So I had a fun time.
What was the most popular activity? Because that's a long trip. What was the most popular activity? Was it sleeping, playing cards?
I know there's a few guys that, have real full-time jobs and everything, and they were probably, a couple of them were working.
Yeah.
I know I talked to Jesse Anderson, and says, I try to work on the bus trips. It doesn't always work out that way, though.
Was he? I don't know. I'll say I don't think he was working.
No?
Maybe a little bit. I was sleeping a little bit on the trip, but I know. All seriousness, I know a couple guys were playing cards in the bus.
Yeah.
Guys had their iPads watching shows. That's what I was doing. Shows, movies, just trying to pass the time. Then come out of my my little seat bunk there and talk to some guys and hang out. So a little bit mixture of everything. But I'd say the popular option, especially for 20-hour bus rides, definitely try to sleep as much as you can.
And how comfortable was it to get some sleep?
It was very comfortable.
Really?
I was having a good time for sure. I was laying out, having to enjoy my movies, TV shows, which I like. So
you get to catch up a little bit, right?
I did get to catch up. I had some new shows that I put on, then some classic comedy shows I put on. Step Brothers. I mean, that definitely passed the trip a little bit. So,
what kind of comedies do you like? Classic comedies. What kind of comedies are you talking about there?
Definitely Step Brothers, Anchorman. I mean, a lot of Will Ferrell
Anchorman.
stuff. Adam Sandler, you can't go wrong. Happy Gilmore. I mean, just the classic comedies. It's.
Can you hit a golf ball with a hockey stick? Have you tried?
I've tried, but it's not good. It doesn't work as you think it will.
So you guys obviously swept Topeka, played the one game out there, came back here, played on Friday night. You guys won, had the first Saturday off of the year. Now, some of you might have had a Saturday off for basically injury or whatever and not playing, but it was the first time since the beginning of the season that the Black Bears and their fans weren't either glued to a television watching you guys or in this arena or you guys not playing somewhere on a Saturday. Must have felt kind of nice to get those 2 wins and be able to take that Saturday off. For sure,
and we definitely earned those 2 wins for a sweep there to get those 2 days off, Saturday and Sunday. It was definitely interesting to look back because it's like I think throughout the regular season we probably had 20-something weekends in a row, Fridays, Saturdays, where we're playing, and it's definitely a weird feeling. But we definitely earned those 2 days off. We worked hard and get as much rest as you can, getting ready for the next rounds. That's the name of the game in the playoffs, right? So
yeah, and of course the next round was of course Port Huron. You guys go out there and you get the 1-0 win out in Port. Last year the team lost in Port Huron 4-0, right? So you guys flipped the script on last Thursday out in Port Huron. Talk a little bit about that game and the feeling afterwards heading home, because I got to imagine that the boys were like, yeah, we just went to Port Huron and we shut them down.
100%. And we knew going into the Port Huron series that it's going to be a war. It's a war. It's always an intense game, no matter what, with Port Huron. Just kind of a rivalry that we have established with them the past couple of years here, and we just knew it was going to be an intense series, and we just kind of had to approach it one shift at a time. One day at a time and one game at a time, I should say. And, in that we're a pack of, I like to say a pack of bears, we go in together and, we're one big group. And, it just take it moment by moment, shift by shift. And, we got the job done there in Port Huron. And, it definitely felt really, really good getting a win out of Port Huron, especially the home state too. So that always feels great.
Did you have family at the game?
I did, yes. I had some family there and some friends. It was definitely great to see them after the game and come see me play. It's always special.
Yeah, I mean it's a 1-0 game, which is great. But then obviously the Saturday game was like, wow, they flipped the script there, right? It went from a 1-0 to they came in. It was an elimination game for them, right? And so they played at this really high intensity, and it almost seemed like you guys couldn't match that intensity, at least on Saturday night. Talk a little bit about what you guys felt on the ice on Saturday. As that game is going along, I saw you guys are doing a lot of the same things you've done every game that you won this year. And yet there would be like either puck luck wasn't on your side, the hockey gods weren't on your side, whatever it was, something to be like, oh, and there's a turnover, or there's this or that, whatever it might have been. What did you guys think and feel? Because the execution, Brant said after the game, maybe wasn't the best for you guys. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. at the end of the day, it just wasn't our night. And sometimes that's going to happen. And also we didn't play our best game either. And,
sure.
And that just, we hold ourselves to a high standard here. And, sometimes that's just the way some nights go. And, everything's not going to be perfect. Mistakes are going to be made. It's just, that's hockey. Right. And, just kind of one of those things where, it was a tough loss, but you have to flush those really quick, especially going into a deciding game 3. And it is what it is sometimes.
And then you guys go into game 3, and it felt so differently. And I've seen this multiple times in game 7s. All right, in the NHL, the team that has to win game 6 to force the game 7, they play a certain game in that game 6. Right, for Port Huron, it was game 2. Right, but then a lot of times you'll see a game 7 be a completely different style of a game. And they almost kind of fell back a little bit and was like, okay, we can't take too many chances because the Black Bears will burn us, right? So maybe they tried to tighten their defense up a little bit. They weren't pressing as much with their forwards. And then you guys just took advantage of that and was able to control. Like in the first period alone, I felt like 75% of the period was in front of Reed Cooper in the zone. And that was completely different than the night before. What did you guys talk about or notice yourself about that game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all knew it was on the line. It's a do or die game 3, and it's a trip to the finals on the line. And it definitely, the night before was definitely on our minds, and we knew that we were going to come out. We had to come out with a better effort in the first 5 minutes, and that's exactly what we did. We had a lot of motivation going into game 3, and our start really showed that. We were more on our toes. We were definitely more aggressive in all aspects, offensive, defensive, and neutral zone, and kind of just taking their, ending plays quick and taking away their opportunities as well. And our start was great. Even going down 1-0, we weren't even worried. We really liked the way we were playing, and our message before the game was we're focusing more on us and not about them. Focusing more on our game, and we definitely responded well through that.
And Mac Jansen, what a series for him, right? Mm-hmm. Misses game 2, but scores the game winner, the only goal on Thursday night, and then on Sunday comes up with 2 big goals again. Talk a little bit about what it means to have a guy like him on this team.
100%. I mean, Janny, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. He's such a big presence in our locker room. Great leadership, all around great person. It was really great to see him come in and provide, in big moments, provide us the spark that we needed.
I don't know if you guys heard. I don't know if you heard yet. Mm-hmm. He was emotional afterwards. Mm-hmm. Like, he came in to do post-game interviews with myself and Fox 40, and he teared up. Mm-hmm. He did not like the fact that he could not play on Saturday, that his body said no. And then when he came in on Sunday and was able to put out for you guys and help you guys secure that win, it brought him to tears. What kind of person is he? Because I've had him on the show here. He's a Minnesota boy. I love Minnesota boys a lot. The Michigan hockey players and the Minnesota hockey players are some of the most down-to-earth farm boy type-esque kind of players, right? If you know what I'm talking about, right? Just hard workers, and just they care so much about their teammates and stuff. That's what I got from Janny in that post when he was like, and his talking about his trust with Brant Sherwood,
for sure,
and everything. Talk a little bit about Janny as a person in that locker room.
Like I said before, he's just such a great overall person, on and off the ice. Like I said, his leadership just speak volumes. He's a captain in the SP, mm-hmm. on a championship SP team in Roanoke, and you just feel his presence in the locker room, just being vocal and taking leadership. And sometimes it's not even words. He goes out there and makes a great play, big hit, scores, and it speaks high volumes. And how can you not want to go to war with a guy like that, right? And just having great conversations with him off the ice as well. Just about life in general. He cares about every single one of us in that locker room, and he'll take the time of day to talk to anyone. And
that's awesome.
Said he's a great overall human being, and it's a pleasure to get to play with him. He's awesome.
Well, it's a whole group of guys like that, in my
100%.
opinion, at least from my vantage point. You guys might be putting on a front for me. I don't know, but you guys have been all super awesome with me. The last thing I want to talk about with the Port Huron series is the handshake line. Your D partner decided to, make sure that you respect the line. You go through the line. I wrote an article the night before you guys came back, or when you guys came back before Game 2, and I said, listen, last year the Port Huron guys, they were down on the ice, they were watching Binghamton celebrate. You were coming down from the stands or coming out of the corner there. You understand what it's like to not be on the ice and whatnot. They were on the ice. I said, you got to respect that line. And that goes for fans too. Shake the hands of your opponents and wish them well, that type of thing. And then one of their players decided to hit one of our players, and your D partner, who we'll talk a little bit about here in just a few minutes, decided to make sure that you don't do that, that you respect the line. You respect us as opponents as we're supposed to respect you as opponents. What does that handshake line mean to you?
Just like you said, it's an act of sportsmanship and respect towards your opponent at the end of a game or a series, right? And we might be it might be an intense war out there. Maybe some chirping things said that during the series that
of course
that's all part of it, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we're athletes, and sportsmanship's a huge thing, and that just it's a sign of respect. That, hey, great series. Might not like each other on the ice, but it's still a sign of respect. Towards
well,
win or lose.
Yeah, because Jesse Anderson's getting married this upcoming summer. I believe that Jamie Bussell, who's on there, is going to be in the wedding. They're obviously friends. You've worked summer camps with Reggie Millette. Mm-hmm. Probably the most hated guy here in Binghamton, and you know him outside of this place, and know that he's a decent human being, just like anybody else is. And whatever reason people want to hate on him for, things that happened in the past doesn't mean that's who he is as a person now. So you even understand that.
For sure. Yeah. And, it's, even, that little scuffle at the end. And to speak on that, Weebs, is protecting a teammate. Like I said, we're a pack of bears. We're a family in our locker room, and we'll protect each other no matter what. And that's, but that's, just because that happens everything else is fine, sign of respect. And, everyone say, hey, good series. And they're saying best of luck in the finals. And, like I said, it's intense war. I mean, I get into it as well, get out there with the chirping. But at the end of the day, it's.
I don't expect you to be a chirper, though. But you chirp a little?
I get into the game, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I say some things, but at the end of the day, it's just the emotion of the game, right? That's natural. I mean, it's competition, right? We're competitive, and it's, I say some things, but at the end of the day, respect each other off the ice, and, just, win or loss, shake hands and move on.
Absolutely. Okay. So what do you remember about Pee Dee?
Well, they're definitely, a skilled group. I think they've definitely made some changes, to their lineup since, from some guys we've seen. They've made some trades and everything, but they're a skilled group. They're well coached. I played against Gary Graham when I was on Huntsville. He was coaching Pensacola last year. Yep. And my good friend
Toast was on.
Yeah,
I'll
say my good friend Blake Tosto, played for him as well, and so I know they're well coached, and they're gonna bring their best effort. I mean, if you look at the past series they've played with Athens and Columbus, there, I mean, they played well against Athens, and they fought against Columbus, a full 60 minutes plus with them. So,
do you think Toast is going to be watching the series?
I know he's going to be watching. I know he's probably listening right now too. So. He actually says hi. He says hi, by the way.
Well,
so I talked to him last night.
Blake, absolutely. I love Blake Tosto. I maybe in the summertime I'll get him back on the show to talk about his SP year and how he did. But you guys both grew up in Michigan. Mm-hmm. You're both Detroit sports fans. And I know baseball is starting back up, so that's something that we'll pay attention to.
Yep.
At least you guys didn't have like the start the Mets had.
Oh man,
that was crazy.
I think I just checked today. Tigers are in first place in the Central. They had a good first series and then kind of a little dip after that. But
right.
It's also 162 games, so it's a long season.
It is. How important is it for you to be able to have a friend who's been through this, that you can talk to about this, about the playoffs, about the finals? You couldn't play last year in the finals. One of your best friends could. Talk a little bit about how important that relationship with you and Tostar. For sure. I mean, Blake Tosto's one of my best friends. We talk daily, and always asking how he's doing up in Knoxville. And he's always keeping tabs with us here in Binghamton, just with all of us, how we're doing. He's still very much a part of this group and culture, here in Binghamton. And well, when you win, you're always somehow attached. 100%. Yeah, that's just the way it works. As we're looking, he's been a part of 2 championships here. Looking at the banners up here, and he's. I got a great view from here, don't I? I know you do. Really, you have a great view up here. This is my view. This is probably one of the best views in the league, in my opinion. To look at the ice, yeah, absolutely, 100%. One of the best views in the league. I mean, there's obviously no bias here, but this is a great view. Because you can see the play develop. That's one of the things I love the most is I can see the play develop really well from right here. I get to see our goaltender being shot on twice, and see how he's performing pretty well. But it's a great view. It's a good second period view of the offensive zone here. So yeah, it is. Emery didn't realize it when he came up here and did the interview with me and Scott Romickers. They both were like looking out there. It was like, this is not bad. Emerson didn't realize that? No. We might need to have a talk with him, honestly. Well, he didn't realize how good of a view this was going to be from up here. I don't think a lot of guys don't come up into the press box. Yeah. Sorry, one of my good friends. So I'm gonna give it to him. I'll give it to him a little bit. I'll give a little, but no, he's awesome. But sorry to continue here, but no, it's just see, especially even though having the slight injury last year, being around, being together, we're still watching, sports together on the couch and just talking about, mentally preparing for, the finals against Carolina. Still learned a lot, 100%. Just being around that definitely has helped, being around the group has definitely helped going into this year, just still being a part of it in a way. My mind's always still thinking hockey and what, as competitive as I am, thinking how can we beat these guys? How can, we do that. So even going through against Carolina last year, I was still thinking like, here's what we got to do here to beat them. Just internal, with myself, just being, part of, being a hockey player, right? And definitely seeing that has helped going into the season and playoffs this year. And like I said, Blake, being one of my best friends, he's still very much part of the Binghamton culture here, and he's always catching up and asking how we're doing. So, well, if he's not playing, he'll be watching. It's simple as that. I'm pretty sure of that.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I would like to tell you what we were talking about during the break, but we, for FCC reasons, will not be doing that. Welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I am Bob. She is Taylor. And we still got previewing to do for the Pee Dee IceCats and the Binghamton Black Bears Commissioners Cup Finals. We'll get to that in just a second. Support the Power Play Post Show by subscribing on YouTube. I keep seeing you guys subscribing, so thank you. When you subscribe and like episodes, it signals to YouTube that hockey fans are engaging, which helps recommend the show to more viewers. As our community grows, we're able to deliver more interviews, insights, and hockey discussions. Subscribing and liking is the most effective and completely free way to support the show. Join fellow hockey fans and subscribe on YouTube today.
So, Taylor, again, we have a little bit more to talk about when it comes to these two teams playing against each other. Let's remind everybody, this is a team, the Binghamton Black Bears, that are going for what will go down in the history books as a record 3 championships in a row. And honestly, there's probably less than 10 teams in minor league hockey, 10 franchises in 100 years that have done this. Less than that, much less than that. And in the NHL, it's only happened 5 times in its 125-year history that a team has won 3 championships or more. Only 5 franchises have done that. And actually, 2 were the Montreal Canadiens and 2 were the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they both have done it twice. And then there was one other team, the New York Islanders, who did it 4 times in the 80s. So there's that aspect of it for the Binghamton Black Bears. The other aspect is the Cinderella story, the brand new team that has just begun. They had a okay season. They were under 500, but they did make it to the playoffs as the 4th seed and then had a magical run against Athens and, of course, against the Columbus River Dragons, where they beat the River Dragons twice in Columbus. And I'm giving away half of what we're going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. So I will let you continue, but let's continue previewing.
So we're going to finish our preview of the Commissioner Cups finals matchup between the Binghamton Black Bears and the Pee Dee IceCats. So how did the two teams get here? The IceCats defeated the Athens Rock Lobsters in a sweep of the number 1 team in the Continental Division. The IceCats took Game 1 on 4/17/2026 versus the Rock Lobsters in Athens by the score of 8-2. Colgan saved 45 of 47 shots that Athens sent his way, and Philip Virgili scored 2 goals in the game. To complete the domination of Athens, the series moved to Florence, South Carolina, where the IceCats won again by the score of 7-2. Both Elijah Wilson and Patrick Marcinkiewicz scored 2 goals in the game. To get to the finals, the IceCats then needed 3 games to beat the Columbus River Dragons in a series 2-1. Columbus took Game 1 of the series by the score of 3-1. Houston Wilson got the only tally for the IceCats in the game, which was played in Florence. It would take a pair of overtime games for the IceCats to make it to the finals, and they would have to win both overtime games on the road in Columbus, Georgia, as they would take Game 2 in overtime by the score of 3-2. Former Danbury hat trick Vadim Frolov, remember that name, he would score the game winner at 11:50 into the first overtime period. But then the IceCats would do it again on the road in Columbus, winning a game in overtime by the score of 4-3. It would not take as long as the overtime period, as Houston Wilson would score at the 1:14 mark, playing hero for the IceCats and punching their ticket into the finals against Binghamton. The Black Bears defeated the Topeka Scarecrows in 2 games. On April 15th in Topeka, the Black Bears won a 4-3 game, with CJ Stubbs scoring 2 goals. On April 17th in Binghamton, the Black Bears would win in a sweep, defeating the Scarecrows 6-2. Stubbs scoring another 2 goals, with Zach Strota, Garrett Sargis, Tyson Kirkby, and Jesse Anderson also scoring in the game. Then came the rematch from the last year's semifinals between the Black Bears and the Prowlers, with the Black Bears again winning the series in 3 games. The first game in Port Huron was a nail-biter, with Mac Jansen scoring the only goal of the game on the power play, just 5:18 into the first period, while Dominic Tomei earned a 27-save shutout to get the Black Bears the early 1-0 lead in the series. Then the venue changed to Binghamton, and for the first time in franchise history, the Black Bears lost at home, a 5-1 loss that saw only CJ Stubbs score for the Black Bears, and the Prowlers pushing the series to a final and deciding Game 3. Game 3 was deciding by a player who could not go in Game 2 for Binghamton, Mac Jansen. After the Prowlers scored the first goal of the game, 2:11 into the game, the Black Bears shut down the Prowlers, and Mac Jansen not only tied the game up in the second period, he scored the game winner on the power play just 1:51 into the final period.
So obviously they both had to play 3 games in the second round. They both only played 2 games in the first round. Very similar in that sense. Obviously, PD definitely got that big, kind of confidence builder by beating the Athens Rock Lobsters. They were also said, everybody said no one's going to beat Athens in the first round, so you're bum out of luck. So they got a chip on their shoulder. They got some confidence. And then they got the belief in themselves. And this is something I talked about with Tom Callahan, where when you win 2 games in overtime on the road, that is something that helps create that belief in yourself. So you have belief, confidence, and a chip on your shoulder. That makes them a dangerous team. And I truly believe that they could be a dangerous team. And it'll be interesting to see if they can keep up with the Black Bears' skill level and speed. PD has speed. I'm not going to deny that at all. But whether or not that speed can translate into high skill will be very interesting against a very strong defensive Binghamton Black Bears.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm kind of standing on this, is that we're not denying that their skill and their speed and that PD has, some good players, some good qualities about them.
Mm-hmm.
But do they have it to the level and the extent that the Black Bears do? And that's kind of where the deciding factor is for me. That, yeah, they were really good at like the man-on-man stuff and kind of keeping up with the Black Bears, but can they do that for a full 60? We've seen the Black Bears where, we've talked in the first year that they got the cup, was they weren't playing a full 60. It was always, they had a really good, first and second period. And then that third period, they were really kind of slacking and slowing down and not playing to that full advantage. And then the second year, we saw hiccups here and there, and we had a lot of like up and down moments throughout the year. We haven't really had that at all this year.
No, we
haven't had those mountains and those ups and downs. We've really been steady the entire year. And that's even with, sending this player to go get their visa, sending this player because they wanted to go somewhere else for a little while. All the little changes that we've done here and there, we've never had those like high peaks and low, spots. We've always been really consistent this season. And so I truly think that matching against the Black Bears is something that they should be proud of. I think it should be a good matchup. I mean, they've made it this far. They should definitely be proud of that. Even if, at this point, it doesn't matter who wins, you should really be proud of making it this far because nobody else did.
Right.
But in just my own opinion, what the Black Bears have done, not only this season, but the last 3 seasons, everybody in the league hates the Black Bears. They hate Brant Sherwood. They really despise him for whatever reason. I still can't come up with anything. Mm-hmm. And, even Danbury with the whole can trash kicking thing, they've gotten over that. I think we're actually friends with Danbury now. And I think that's saying something. But,
it really
the
is.
Whole league just seems to kind of like have their chip on their shoulder about Brant Sherwood, and yet look at what he's done and what he's built here in Binghamton. And maybe that's what they're mad about, is that they've had the league a lot longer. They've had some of these teams a lot longer, and they haven't been able to do what Brant Sherwood has been able to do. And, Andreas, he's gone from Watertown that had championships, and he's come here to Binghamton. And again, they've had championships, and now he's got another team that's going to be, more south. And, who knows what's going to go on with that? Maybe they could win championships. So it's definitely, something to be proud of on either end of the dice here. But I truly think what is built here in Binghamton is something that is very hard to go against and come out on the winning end of the scoreboard at the end of the series.
Well, it's hard for me to think that if Brant Sherwood is in charge of a team in Binghamton at this point, how they would actually lose. But in the regular season, in 56 games, the Pee Dee IceCats were 26-5-5. They had 81 points. They finished with a .482 winning percentage. They scored 207 goals, and they allowed 197. So very close, only a 10-point difference between goals for and goals against. Now, the Black Bears, the Pee Dee IceCats, they were 4th in the Continental Division. Binghamton was number 1 in the Empire Division, and just in the league in general. They finished their season with 48 wins, 6 losses, and 2 overtime losses, 143 points, tied last year's point total, 851 winning percentage, a 292 goals for, and a 126 goals against, a difference of 166 goals. Just for reference, the Black Bears only allowed 126 goals. PD allowed 197. That differential itself is a minus 89 points. That's just, well, not 89. It's minus, boy, my math was really bad there, 69 points. It's still a lot of goals. It's still a lot of goals there. Again, it's the second season, and you cannot always say, well, look what they did in the regular season in the playoffs. But you kind of almost can. Pee Dee IceCats were the last team to make the playoffs of the FPHL, and they've had a Cinderella seasons. Not all Cinderella seasons end with a championship. If you look at the history of the March Madness in basketball and everything that's happened there, Cinderella seasons don't always end with a championship. So it'll be interesting. Okay, the IceCats in the playoffs are led by Alexander Legoff. In 5 games played, he's got 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points with 1 game-winning goal. Now, Patrick's Marcinkiewicz is in 5 games played, has 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. Houston Wilson, 5 goals. In 5 games, he's got 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. 2 power play goals and 1 game-winning goal. And let's be honest, some of their points, a lot of their points were in the Athens routes where they scored, obviously, 15 goals. Brendan Colgan in the playoffs is 4-1, a .233 goals against average, and a .933 saves percentage. Very respectable on his part. The Black Bears are led by CJ Stubbs. In 5 games played, he's got 5 goals, 2 assists for 7 points, 2 power play goals, and 1 game-winning goal. Mac Jansen in 5 games played, who I think is the MVP of round 2, has 4 goals, 2 assists for 6 points, 3 power play goals, and 2 game-winning goals. And then Ivan Bondarenko, why should we even just have a goal column for him? He never, puts anything in there. But in 5 games played, he's got 6 assists in the playoffs. He's just an assist machine. He really, really is. And then of course Dominic Tomei, he's 4-1 with a 2.03 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. I think that's going to get a little bit better maybe after game 1. We'll see. Special teams, Binghamton in the playoffs. Power play is ranked 2nd with 5 power play goals for a 31% conversion rate, basically right around where they were in the regular season. And the PK ranked 3rd, a little bit of a dip, but they've only given up 2 power play goals in 5 games, so that's not too bad. And they've stopped 90% of the power play opportunities for the other teams. And then the Pee Dee IceCats, they are ranked 8th with 2 power play goals and only, converting 9% of the time. And their PK is ranked 7th. So 6 power play goals against, 73%. And I've got to be honest with you, Taylor, if the Pee Dee IceCats go into the penalty box at all, they're in trouble.
Yeah, that number doesn't look too good on their end. So that's, and I mean, if their big thing is they like to go out there and play hockey, which I was kind of looking when you were reading off some of the other numbers from the regular season. I looked at some of the penalty minutes just because I wanted to see if there was 36 and we have 973. So not a huge difference there in penalty minutes. So I would be surprised to say there wasn't going to be any penalties. I definitely don't feel like it's going to be to the extent that it has been with like Port Huron.
I don't think it'll be a hack and a
or
whack.
Danbury in that sense, where there's like a lot of the slashing, a lot of stick infractions type of stuff.
Right.
I don't really see that happening, but definitely if they end up in the penalty box, it doesn't look like it's going to be too promising for them.
No. Okay, so let's talk about these first 2 games. Obviously, they're going to have the home crowd. When I talked to Tom earlier in the day, they've already got well over 4,000 fans for Friday night and Saturday night tickets sold. So they've got a couple more days to sell more tickets and maybe push that up to 6,000 fans, which would be outstanding for a playoff game to see 6,000 fans in the stands. So let me ask you this. Is there any advantage for the home team having a huge sellout crowd and potentially having almost all of their fans wearing white as they are, promoting white out for Friday and Saturday? Is there any advantage at all that will help the Pee Dee IceCats there?
That's a hard one to say. Maybe advantage for the team, kind of having that support behind them. And, I truly I don't know how many seats their arena holds, but sell it out.
70,
get as many people as you possibly can into that arena. I know that there are some Black Bear fans that are going down, and I know they're trying to plan a bus trip or however they're doing it. So I know that there will be some Black Bear fans in there. Obviously, there's going to be more PD fans, but truthfully, sell it out, pack it full, do everything you can to get as many people as you can possibly fit in there, and just do it. And really, you show up to support your team, whichever team you're rooting for.
Right.
But so do I feel like PD could feed off that energy? 100%. I feel like, the team is really kind of lean on fan support for a lot of their stuff, whether it's just showing up to games or, the booster clubs doing stuff for them, or just in any aspect, having the fan base support. I'm sure it's huge for these guys and a lot of the players on the team and stuff like that. But do I feel like it would affect the Black Bears in any kind of way to go into this arena and see it jam-packed, white out for the IceCats? No. So do I see it benefiting in a way that's going to impact the game? Not necessarily.
Okay. All right. So your thoughts. Do the Black Bears come out of this weekend with 2 wins?
I think they come out of this weekend with 2 wins. I don't think it's going to be this massive blowout or anything like that. I do feel like they will be close games. But right now, I don't have a doubt in my mind that the Black Bears can come home with 2 wins.
I think they split. I think I said this last year with Carolina too, right? The first 2 games down there, I said, I think they would split. I think they split with PD. I think PD, goes into game 1 a little nervous, a little antsy, and the Black Bears capitalize on that. And then I think PD gets the win on Saturday night.
That's fair. I might not listen to what you have to say about Saturday nights, because you were very wrong about the Port Huron one. But
that is true. That is true.
Yeah, it's fair to say. I don't know. The Black Bears have been here before, 2 times in a row where they've come out, the champions on the other end.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's familiar for the Black Bears.
History,
not familiar ice. History, not a familiar arena, but I don't know.
History does say the Black Bears going on the road to start the series, they've gotten 2 wins in 2 straight years. So that's 4 road wins in the last 2 years to start the final series. History says that they can do it again.
Well, history likes to repeat itself, so it'll definitely be interesting to see. I can't wait for the games this weekend. We will not be traveling down. It would be nice. It would have been cool to kind of get to an arena, but it's not in the cards for us this year. We've got a lot of other things going on here.
Yep. But
I will definitely be paying attention online and be very excited to watch these games. So
perfect. All right. Well, hey, fans, that is our preview. Now, don't forget, this upcoming weekend, we will have a show on Sunday where we'll be discussing obviously the 2 games that we're about to see, and we'll have a couple guests as well. All right. The Power Play Post Show is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app. And don't forget to subscribe, join the conversation on Facebook, search Power Play Post Show, and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net.
And if you listened to part 1 and you enjoyed it, part 2 of Bobby's sit-down interviews with Jacob Shankar and Camron Cervone will air on Sunday's Power Play Post Show.
All right. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and from the Pee Dee IceCats, Tom Callahan, Black Bears forward, Jacob Shankar, and defenseman Camron Cervone. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And we'll talk to you guys next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.